Social entrepreneurship. It's the idea of creating, funding, and running initiative that actually solve social problems, that focuses on bringing people together, that focuses on doing good over profit. And that's something we're going to talk about today. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Roll With It podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. I want to ask you a favor, though. Please invite someone because today, social entrepreneurship is a big concept. Most of us probably have worn or have a Bomba socks or worn those comfortable Tom's shoes. I'm sure you must have heard of it. That is, or those are, I would say, some of the more popular idea of social entrepreneurship. But today we're going to bring it home. We bring someone on this podcast who will be talking about social entrepreneurship as she champions the cause for individual with autism. And just something so close to my heart because she herself was a special educator. And now she hires those people, she trains them, they get a certificate, and she used her special education knowledge along with her desire and the idea that God give her to create this social movement. You have to hear about it. So please, if you yourself are dealing with autism, know somebody you love, whether it's a child or an adult, this show is for you. If you know someone else, please take a minute to invite them. How do you do that? We're live right now on YouTube and Facebook. So you just kind of tag their name like @Paulette, and they'll see that we're live. We want you to invite as many people to hear Janet. She's all the way in North Carolina. I'm in Florida, and we're excited to share about social entrepreneurship. The autism spectrum, it has just grown so much. I remember teaching when I was first introduced to autistic kids, as you will. We had training on it, but I didn't have a student in my class. I would say until maybe 2009 or 10. And I remember how fascinating this student was. I worked at David A. Strauss Performing Arts Center, and we would put on full plays. And this young man would sit next to me, and he's so intelligent that he would literally memorize every single person's line in the entire play. At the time, we were doing Guys and Gals Junior. And he sat there and memorized every single line. And that was the first person with autism that I had the pleasure of working with. And he was just over the top, full of joy. And I'm like, I love this. I love this. So that caused me to dive a little bit deeper into student with autism, and to think that um, Janet has made this her mission. She's championed this. She hires those they're so overlooked, right? Because they're so intelligent, is what it is, that most of us don't understand. And she takes the time to hire them, to train them, to give them certificate, and to hire them. Let me tell you a little bit about Janet as we bring her on real quick. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess this up. When you have somebody amazing on the show, I don't need to make things up. I don't need to guess. So listen, hear about Janet. From special education to social entrepreneurship, Janet Schultz turned her pain into purpose and her why into a global movement. Isn't that cool? I mean, God just has angels everywhere. For individuals on the autism spectrum, she trains them, she gives them a certificate, and she hires them. She refused to be a victim of her past pain and current challenges, but instead she wants her pain and her challenges to count. She creates meaningful job, and she focuses on purpose over profit. Please, please, before I bring her on, I want you to invite someone else to join this podcast as we talk to this woman who overcomes so much. And now her why is to create a movement to champion for autistic kids. Ladies, gentlemen, please welcome to this show Janet Schultz. Hi, Janet. How are you?
Hey, Paulette, thank you so much for that wonderful and gracious
You
introduction.
are most welcome. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for, let me correct his name really quickly. Thank you for being on the show today with us. I'm so happy that you're here. And you are, tell me, I want to make sure, where are you at right now?
Concord, North
In North
Carolina.
Carolina. You are just, oh, I love Charlotte. So you're freezing just a little bit. I don't know on my
Yeah.
end. You seem to be freezing. Can you hear me okay?
Not on my, not, I'm good on my end.
Okay, okay. So it just must be me. There's so much. I know I met you on the Christian Podcasters Facebook page.
Hmm.
Just such a great platform for Christian, right? Not just businesses, but anybody who has a voice or has something to say. God has given them a vision. And when we had our first intro call, I was so excited to hear about there's key things I heard you said, and I'm like, yes, I want her on the podcast. You talked about social entrepreneurship. You talked about not being a victim, right? That seemed to be the thing that everybody wants to be a victim of something. Oh me, oh my. And you've gone through so much. I do not want to share your story, but you've gone through so much. And then you turn that pain into purpose. And you said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a social movement to help individuals, not just young people. I'm thinking adults. So tell me, let's start at the beginning. How what was it that sparked this whole movement that you carry right now?
Well, in the beginning, I started a cleaning company with not that in mind, but
Okay.
I started out as a social enterprise, but wasn't sure what cause I would align myself with.
Uh huh.
So the first year and a half, um, I grew so fast, Paulette, that I had to start bringing people on board to help me do the cleaning of the businesses that I was given. And just having such frustration and not being able to find a qualified employee base
Mm-hmm.
was just something that I knew that it would stifle my growth.
Right.
And I knew that somehow I had to find the right employee base. Where are those people that would clean to a routine, that would
Mm-hmm.
clean to a process,
Mm-hmm.
and then would be reliable, dependable, and have and show up.
Okay.
So I just went back to my special ed days and remember my experiences with people with autism, and it just occurred to me that after just crying out,
Mm-hmm.
where are my employees? The epiphany was you need to look at people on the spectrum.
Wow. Look at
So,
that. Look at that.
yeah. And I didn't just jump into doing that. I did my research. I talked to people in that community, in that world. I knew the skill sets that they had were the strengths that I needed.
Mm.
And I had something they needed, which was employment.
There you
Which
go.
is,
So
yeah,
you turned that. You became a champion for this people group.
yeah. So that's right. And so as it turns out, the lady that I spoke with, a friend of mine with Autism Speaks, she told me then, and that was in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
that there would be more businesses like mine, social enterprises or nonprofits, but social enterprises particularly
Yeah.
starting, because these children that were early identified as having autism are now adults, have gone through the system, and are now at home sitting idly by, but are very employable, but yet have 85% of the unemployment rate is those that face autism. So
Oh,
it
wow.
met
85%?
85%. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I just began to open my interview process, to my hiring process, to those with autism.
So
And
do me a
Eric,
favor, Walk us through that a little bit, because like I'm shocked to hear that individual with autism has an 85%, what I guess non-hiring rate. So they're out there, they're employable, people are not hiring them. Walk us through your process really quickly, because there might be people who watch this on a replay, who get on this podcast and say, well, I'm on the spectrum, or my child, my uncle, my brother, somebody I love has it. What do I do? Or where do I go? Maybe they can connect with you in North Carolina. We'll talk about your business soon, but walk us through the steps of how you hire these individuals.
Well, we first do the interview process. Is not the same
Mhm.
as you would do an interview in a regular job setting. Communication being one of their challenges, that their best self is
Mhm.
not put forward in the regular one-on-one interview process like you and I are doing right now. We're talking, having a conversation.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
them, that's difficult. And then you have some that are nonverbal.
Right, right.
Okay. But still, they have a lot to offer. So you don't want to discount those. So what we do, and this goes back to my educational experience, we do job shadowing. And so in the job shadowing interview process, I get to see them working with a team, how well they take initiative, because that's a big thing, taking initiative.
Right.
How well they take instruction, how well they can work on their own or not, if they're not able to in the beginning, what is the possibility of them being able to in the future? Because
Okay.
that is my whole model, is working independently, being independent, as independent as you can be, whatever that looks for you.
Right, right.
But the job shadowing experience, it shows me if they are socially able to handle feedback.
Hmm.
They're able to see their behavior,
Right, right.
because not everyone, just because they're autistic, does not mean that you go through the job shadowing experience and get a job. This is
Okay.
not this is not a simulation of a business.
Okay, I see.
This is the real thing, a
Per
business for profit.
person, so it's really individually based, person by person.
Absolutely, yeah. And
So
so I'm not.
what percentage would you say uh, individual that you interview that actually get a job?
I would say of the um, 15,
Okay.
I would say, yeah, I would say that they may have got, I mean, that maybe 12 got the
Okay.
job, but
Hmm.
then even then, and sometimes the parents would get in the way
Oh,
because they weren't quite ready to let their
yeah.
child go, that and that this wasn't school
Right.
anymore, that this was the real
Working
world.
world
And I
where you get
kind
a job and pay taxes.
and right, and I would not go through them to communicate with my employee who I paid.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So and so therefore, sometimes because of that, I probably lost two that way. That the child just couldn't
Oh,
make it.
because the parent wants to control. So let me ask you this. This prompts the question of, are you also having parental? I know this is not school, but we're dealing with a people group. It's life. Do you have some type of parental or a guardian, I guess, workshop? Is this a part of your company?
I haven't thought of that, but is that real world? It's not. I usually did it um, case by
Okay.
case. But that is definitely an idea worth pursuing. That's something that I can uh, enlighten the people who buy the business in a box and want to start a Blue Jay in their
Right.
community. That's something they might want to do, because that's the culture that I developed. And every business has their
That's
own
true.
culture. And so my culture was that of
I confirm.
independence. And yeah, and that's kind of where I was coming from. But I have parents, I may have lost two, but I also have parents whose adult child made it through and came back to thank me for setting those boundaries, because otherwise they wouldn't have known or seen firsthand how far their child could go.
Yeah, now I see. Yes. So the independence.
Yeah, so there's a purpose
Yeah,
in
the
them.
independence creates, growth in the person, the child themselves, and security and confidence in the parents. Really, I see. This is great. So you mentioned Eric when we first talked, and you mentioned Eric on your website. You said that Eric was your first employee. I don't know if that was 2002, and you hired him with expectation, but in your own words, he shattered everything you'd expected from autistic. And before I move forward, if you have, let me welcome everybody that's watching. I want to say, just stay till the end. You can ask your questions. If you or somebody you know or love, or just somebody that is artistic, and you might feel that this person cannot get a job or they're struggling to keep a job, I believe this is the lady. She doesn't just have a company, she has created a movement, a social movement. And something we'll talk about later on the show, she will be training us how we too can become champions, right? So we sometimes fall in love with cause, like, oh, I love this, I admire her, but we too can become cause to help those with autism in our little small corner of the world. She's going to talk about Blue Jay in a box in a minute, but please invite someone to watch the show with us. Please get to know Janet a little bit more. Janet, tell us about Eric. You said he shattered your expectations.
Yes, he did. And that was I started Blue Jay, the first
Okay.
one,
Oh, that was in
in
2012?
2000,
2012.
2012. And so a year and a half went by, and I frustrated, couldn't find employees. God, where are my employees? Autistic. Okay. So it all kind of came together. They had the strengths, and Blue Jay is fashioned for them because it plays to their strengths. And so Eric was my first hire. He came, and Eric did the job shadowing experience. I was told that Eric would probably not be able to work independently, and that he needed a job coach or someone to come alongside of him and assist him or tell him, what to do next. But see, that just goes against me completely. And I went against the grain with a lot of people. Not a lot of people, but because I feel like that as a society, and as sometimes the community of people with, for lack of a better word, with disabilities, we do become so service or program dependent. And what I am saying is, let's get out of that mindset and let's start creating opportunities with entrepreneurship. There are lots of ways that we can create job opportunities for people on the spectrum, because that's the nature of what I do. So I would not even allow job coaches or to even come on my job site. I tried, Paulette, I did it. I tried 3 different times. And every time I did, it came back to it backfired on me. And so, because there's too much, it just went against. I was trying to get along, to go along, but it went against who I was. And so I had to go through that failure. And there was a failure that I experienced to see and be absolutely strong on my
and true to
conviction.
yourself. And true to yourself.
And true to myself.
Sure.
That's right. So, yeah. So Eric, a long story short, I loved cleaning alongside of Eric because I still had to do some of the cleaning myself, even though I was growing. And Eric, he didn't say a lot. And I wouldn't say that Eric was nonverbal, but Eric didn't talk a lot. But there was a lot going on up here than people thought. And one example would be, And Eric, at this particular time that I'm going to tell you this story of Eric that showed was to himself, and that I had developed a culture that he could succeed and grow. And that Eric, he had become a team leader by this time. Eric was making $10 an hour. In the beginning, he made minimum wage. He came to me with no job experience. This was his first job. And that's true for all of them, that this was their very first job.
So this is their first. This says a lot. This says a lot. Let's not just breeze over that right there. So you're saying that most of the individuals, are they adult, like teens and adults that you're hiring?
They have to. I have learned from experience that they have to have graduated from high school.
Okay, so you've got that much experience of telling you that. So let's not breeze over the fact that you are actually, I'm happy that we use the word champion, because you are that person that not just put hope, but you encourage and you put trust in these individuals to say, I see you, I not just train you, I hire you, and I'll walk alongside you in the process. That says a lot. Thank you for champion individuals like this, because this is what I feel for the ones that I know in my circle that has autism. They are dependent on family. I want to say 90 or something percent. I don't know about the government, whether the government is system. I don't know if they would fall under some type of disability, but I can hear, just learning from you, that the fact that they can be financially enabled, they can help the family. They certainly can help themselves. So thank you.
Yeah, and they want to. They want to give back. They want to be productive. Okay. And let me say that, Blue Jay did more for me than it did for anybody else, because God obviously saw something in me that I didn't know I had. He had faith in me and gave me the room to grow. And so as he did that to me, I'm doing that in turn to them. I'm giving that back to them, that I see you, and I know what you can be. Given the opportunity, I'm going to expect of you until I'm proven otherwise.
That's good. I love that.
And if you fail, that's okay, because you have room for that. You have room to fail. And I had a parent, and that's one of the parents that their child did not make it, told me that failure was a bad word. And I said, no, it's not. Because her child failed and got some criticism and feedback, and so there was a learning curve, to go through.
So let me share this with everybody on the podcast really quickly. In 2021, Janet not only built and sold Blue Jay cleaning solution, but she also launched Blue Jay Solution and Blue Jay's cleaning business in a box, which equip others to replicate her model, creating this business both for profit and purpose. So I want to just pause here and have you talk about what is Blue Jay's business in a box. That's so cute. And if somebody you're in North Carolina, but if somebody in Florida or Wisconsin, somewhere else, could just do what you do, I'd like you. And also, can you take this global outside of the US? Let's talk about
absolutely. Absolutely. Can I finish my Eric story?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought Eric's story was done. My bad.
Okay. So Eric was a team leader, and Eric was on most of our jobs, because Eric was that valuable to me and our company. That because he was on a lot of the jobs, he had a lot of keys, and he had been given that responsibility, and he became known as the keeper of the keys.
Oh,
So he had a pretty big, large ring, and he took that very seriously.
okay.
And he was on a team, and he would be a trainer too, and with people that weren't autistic. And she texted me one day or one evening, excuse me, and told me that Eric would not give her the keys. And I said, well, Eric shouldn't give you the keys. He's the keeper of the keys. So you shouldn't be asking Eric for the keys.
Yeah.
And so, and he wouldn't, because he wasn't going to give her, he wasn't ugly about it or aggressive, but that was his job. And she had, but see, she didn't have the respect that I had of Eric. She didn't respect Eric enough. And she just assumed because he was autistic that he did not understand. But Eric would make sure, I trusted Eric with setting alarms, making sure that office buildings were locked, and because that, you know, that's a very important job. But anyway, to finish that up, and I've got so many stories on our website, we've got countless stories of pictures to match,
Yes.
of young men who have come through and where they are today and what they learned in the process. And that was all of their very first job. And I've kind of merged education with social entrepreneurship. And it's Boucher is just so much more than just a cleaning company. But Eric, one day, his mother got cancer, and he depended on her a lot to get him to and from work. And sometimes he would, you know, let me know if I was working with Eric, I would go pick him up, that kind of thing. And we were very lean financially in the beginning, and it was a struggle. And we only had one vacuum cleaner for all the jobs that we had. And Eric would take that vacuum cleaner from job to job with him. So he had the vacuum cleaner. Well, for whatever reason, I went to check on Eric or met him at the job site. And I said, Eric, knowing that it was a challenge for him at times for transportation, I said, Eric, how did you get to work tonight? I took the bus. And I said, what? You took the bus? Even surprised me.
Right.
And I said, Eric, how did you know what bus to take? I looked it up on the computer.
Oh, so now
and so
growing
he
as a person.
Yes, I fostered. He knew he had grown so much within himself that he had a problem. Instead of looking to some other adult to solve that, he figured it out on his own.
Good.
And he had the money, and he had the money to pay the bus fare. And he had to do several interchanges. You know, the bus just didn't go from point A to point B. And he took the vacuum cleaner with him.
On the bus. Go, Eric.
Yeah, go, Eric. So that's just a case in point.
Yes.
You give them the space and you let them, and you foster that type of environment and develop that kind of culture that they know, but just by modeling, if nothing else, that is what they do. Because I did talk to them. If they called me with a problem, I still a teacher.
Okay, yeah.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Right.
You know, I help them. No, I'm not going to solve your problem. You have a problem. Let's figure out what do you think? You know, and it's about them gaining enough confidence within themselves that they are vulnerable and they take that chance, and they grow as a result. But you know, that's just one example, and that's one Eric story.
Oh, that's wonderful. So share us, for time's sake, tell us about the business was called Blue Jays Business, cleaning solution in a box. Coolest name.
Yeah, Blue Jay Cleaning Business in a Box.
Coolest name ever.
Excuse me. Yeah. Well, from day one, Paulette, and day one, even before I brought people on as, autistic, as being employees, I knew that I wanted this, whatever it was going to be, I wanted it to be a prototype. I wanted to develop a duplicable business model that I could pass off for someone else. So that was imparted in my brain part of the idea.
So from the foundation, you knew you wanted.
From the foundation,
Wonderful.
yeah. So I began, because of that, I began writing the processes down, the systems. And being a teacher, I broke the cleaning processes down, task analysis. So everything was written down. If not written down, it was up here.
Right.
And from marketing to hiring to client profiles, what it would take to do a startup, how long it would take for you to do a profit, just everything you need to know, the nuts and the bolts of doing a startup business. Because I'm a big proponent of small business anyway,
Right.
and I have the gift of encouragement. And so if I can encourage and help someone else succeed, that's what I'm all about. And so being an entrepreneur, I'm kind of in my zone with that.
Good.
And so when it became apparent, even with the name, Paulette, Blue stands for autism awareness. J stands for Janet. It has nothing to do with the bird.
I thought it was a bird when I first heard it.
No, not at all. And so Blue Jay Cleaning Business in a Box, excuse me, became that prototype.
Okay.
And this prototype and this duplicable business model was developed for and in part by people on the spectrum. They had input in it. They helped me to put these ideas down on paper in conjunction with a small college in our nearby town and the Small Business Administration. We all collaborated and got everything written down. And why keep this idea to myself? I sold the cleaning company, the first one in 2021. One of the features about the Blue Jay at the time was that I had autistic employees. So that was a very attractive piece to the person that bought it. But I believe that I was tasked, my job and all of this was to develop the prototype, was to go through the learning curve and go through the mistakes.
Right.
Because as a result, I grew too. I found healing too. I was empowered as much as those on the spectrum that came through.
That's wonderful.
And so now that it's all said and done, this needs to be everywhere. It can be everywhere.
I agree. So, and tell us how. How can, if somebody's interested in connecting with you and becoming a Blue Jays Business in a Box, is it a franchise? You call it a franchise?
It's only a franchise in the word, just for website,
just for the sake of
purposes.
So how do we connect? I hope that you're okay. How does somebody connect with you and become a franchise owner?
Okay. Well, they're not going to be a franchise owner. I do not get royalties because I know my market. I want it affordable. This is a mission. This is a movement. It meets a need that's out there. And I want it to be affordable. And my market cannot afford thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And neither can I as the person doing the franchising. So I don't get royalties, but you're your own business owner. But you follow the model that I have developed through pain, struggle, and wisdom.
Yes. And you are,
the tried and true.
You're a special educator. So you take your professional education with your heart for entrepreneurship and the fact that you hire, you understand individual with autism. You've worked with them. You've kind of worked out the kinks. So I could see you saying, this works. I know this works. So here it is. You hand it off to them.
Yeah. Right. And as a consultant, which is what I would become, I hold your hand through the whole process. And it's important to note that, yes, it's the primary focus of the business in a box is office cleaning, small
Okay.
office cleaning, but there are also at least 5, I think, other extended services that can be offered to a small business owner that anyone on the spectrum can do and find
What are those
independence.
services? May I
So
ask? You said 5.
just for example, paper shredding,
Okay.
parking lot cleanup.
Hmm. So they'll do that through you.
So it's just, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes with the business
Okay.
in a box. It's a bonus, if you will. It's an added
Right.
value.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and look, the person that is on the spectrum can be an entrepreneur themselves. They can own the business. They can do
Mhm.
other things within the business. They might do the accounting. They might be in charge of the social media. I mean, this is the experience that I
Yes.
had. I had Joe was brilliant, and he cleaned offices, but Joe also helped, was one of the collaborators that helped get everything written down, and that was needed to develop this business in a box. He handled a lot of my social media. He did QuickBooks
Oh,
for me. So, and he went on some sales
and
calls.
Joe, he also
So
has autism?
yeah, he has Asperger's, which is, the higher, Asperger's being on the high end of the
Yes.
spectrum.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. But Joe is no longer with us. He is out in the Midwest
Okay.
somewhere, I think. And he graduated from college,
Right.
university, and doing very
This is
well.
good. This is enlightening to me. Um, Even though I guess I've been around people with autism, I've taught them to the degree of independence and trust, which brings dignity that you're bringing to the marketplace. It's just profound, and I want to thank you for that. If you're watching this show right now, if you're watching on the replay, and you or someone you know has autism, regard the spectrum is just wide. Some I don't even think are diagnosed, but please connect them with Janet because you can hear the dignity she brings to the business. They can possibly own the business themselves, which is like hallelujah. Or they can just work alongside someone in their community, church, school, wherever. She's worked at all the kinks and she's put everything in the box and she's handing it. Let me grab this box from Amazon right here. So she's already put everything in the box and she's just like, perfectly packaged and she's just handing it to us and like run your business. She's just here on the perimeter outskirt to help you or whomever. It doesn't have to be you but somebody you know, and I so appreciate that. But Janet, may I deviate because you said something. You said that when you opened Blue Jays or you started Blue Jays, that it has helped you heal more than the people you work with. May I intrude and ask you what have you gone through? Because we talk about you, the fact that you hurt. You shared a bit about that when we first met, and how you turn the hurt, the pain into purpose. And you said, I refuse. In fact, that stood out to me. I refuse to be a victim. So you turn that pain, you turn that hurt into hiring. But what hurt are we talking about? If you don't mind sharing a bit about your personal life.
Um, 2 divorces and and some mental health issues, and just work navigating uh, things from my
Okay.
childhood, um, and just all kinds of things,
Stuff.
that kind of, yeah, stuff, and that trauma, you know, going through
Hmm.
trauma and finding my way through that. I would there is and I someone told me along many years ago when I was going through my first divorce, which I had a nervous breakdown. I just have to say, and but they told me then, and I couldn't understand it at the time, but have come to understand it now, to find joy inside the
Joy.
pain, And joy isn't when we just jump up and down and shout, everything's great, all that. But it's just a quietness, and a
Yeah.
stillness.
Yes.
And I feel like I've come to that point that I'm quiet and still, even though still there are things in my life going on right now as we
Right.
speak that are very tumultuous, okay, and very challenging. But I am trying to find,
Purpose.
the joy inside the pain, the quietness and the stillness as I go through it. And I owe everything to my employees on the spectrum, because when I started this company, this was my second divorce.
Oh.
And by George, I wasn't going to go backwards.
Mm.
I was, I was just not, I just wasn't. And so I was determined that I was going to make sense of it all. And I refused to be a victim of my circumstances and what's happened to me, and some which I caused myself, brought
Right.
on
Life.
myself, not to repeat those things again. Life, yeah. But and so I was experiencing trauma as I was growing this business. And they gave me they just gave me such
That's right.
graciousness and understanding, patience. And because of all that, humility, because
Mm.
I wasn't always the nicest person. I
Wow.
wasn't always easy to get along with. But
Pain. When you're
yeah,
hurting, you hurt other people.
yeah,
So
but
you're going
yeah,
through the pain, you're dealing with all of that. But I think God uses nothing. I know because the Bible says God uses all things for good. So in your pain of divorce one and divorce two, and you're still here, so He has a purpose for you. You start moving forward and helping other people, focusing on them, and look at where God has brought you today. Look at where
isn't
He's
that
brought
the
you today.
easiest way to help someone else? But I was just doing it because, you know, I mean, we have to be
Hmm.
honest. They helped me because they felt that need that I
Oh,
had.
good. Yeah.
They were the employees. They were the employees I needed.
Yes. God knew best.
This just happened that
Mhm.
Blue Jay played to their strengths. So see, this wasn't charity. We both gained from our
That's
relationships.
wonderful. So let me ask you. So you mentioned that the unemployment rate for individuals on the autism spectrum remains heartbreakingly high. I think you said 85%. What do you believe is
The last I
wow?
read.
What do you believe is the
Yeah.
biggest misconception that employees have for hiring?
I think that perhaps they think that they'll have to make a lot of
Okay.
accommodations or concessions in order to bring someone on.
Hmm.
Misunderstanding. And people on the spectrum are very misunderstood. We don't like to call it a disability.
Okay.
We don't like to call it something a
Okay.
disease. What it is a parallel track of thinking. And Joe, he's the one who enlightened
I love that.
me to that knowledge,
I love
because I've been enlightened by people on the spectrum, not just by observations I've made and from my experience, but from me actually communicating with them and asking them the questions. How is it best that I can communicate with
it.
you? Is this too much information? Is it not
Okay.
enough? People with nonverbal communication, how do you communicate with them? Well, I would
You
text,
do what? How do you do? How do
but
you?
it
How do you
would be
communicate with them?
text. Text. I would
Okay.
text with them on the phone, and and then it would need to be short, 2 or 3 sentences
Well,
at a
that sounds like
time.
me.
You know,
That's where I
yeah.
am.
So yeah, but people with Sean, who still works for Blue Jay
Hmm.
today, he sings beautiful. He's nonverbal. He's been cleaning the same dentist's office for 7 years. They love him there. He cleans it solo by himself. He sings beautifully. He used to be in a rock band, and he played the cymbals for our Cabaret Symphony here in our town. So again, I'm just telling you that there's a lot going on up
And
here.
and because we were not special education teachers, and honestly, I can say this I speak not for everyone, but I think for the population, we don't take the time, I feel, to understand anybody who can think on the same level as we do, or think, what did you say? It was a parallel thinking. What's that phrase you used?
A parallel track
So
of
I think
thinking. Who's to say that we're not thinking differently?
Something like that. We don't take the time to understand, to either speed up or slow down, whatever it is. I just know they're extremely intelligent individual. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for bringing an awareness to not just support them, because there's Autism Week or month, right, in spring, and we support that. We do walks, we pay, but what about the dignity of providing the trust that you bring to this industry and this group of people, and the confidence by giving them a job? Like job, just having a job does so much for someone, for their
There's
security.
power in that.
It's self-worth to say, I have a job. It does so much. So thank you for doing that. And so we're going to wrap up really quickly, but let me ask you, before I talk about starting late, what lessons you came from special education? Now you've created a movement in social entrepreneurship. So you've lived in both worlds. What lessons from the classroom, I would say, and actually I can understand this. This is talking on my plane now. What lessons have you brought from the classroom to your business, that makes it work today?
Well, when I was teaching, I kind of landed in that realm of teaching students work-related skills, how to prepare for the workforce. But honestly, they weren't very well prepared. Just given, we have to let them go, let them have experiences, let them test the waters. And I feel like that we graduate students in this within this population that have become cue dependent, meaning they are too reliant on people or adults to tell them the next move, instead of allowing them the ability to problem solve. So we have to,
like you,
problem solving, giving them the environment in which they can engage in that and fail, but that's okay.
Yes. Failure is good. Failing forward. I read a book in maybe my early 20s or mid 20s called Failing Forward. It is one of those books that opened my mind and opened my life. And the author, whose name I do not recall, he's a Christian, so it came from the faith-based perspective. It opened my mind that one cannot succeed unless they have failed. You cannot say, I'm going to run track or be in do anything in the Olympics unless you failed and failed and failed and failed. But it's not failing backwards, you're failing forward. And one of the greatest example we have is the Bible.
And hopefully people can learn from
us. Hopefully, and from we can learn, and others can look at them and go, "Oh, she fell in the pit, so let me walk around." When we're all excited for light. We love light. Light's everywhere. This phone, this ring light I use. But think about the person who created that, and how many times he's failed, and how people call him insane. But he failed until he's left something for the world that we are so grateful for. When we don't have light, we think our lives are just chaotic, right? So Failure is part of life. It's part of the beautiful, beautiful process. So what's next? What's next for Blue Jays Business Solution, Blue Jays Business in a Box? What's next for you, Janet?
Okay. Well, hopefully they will go to my website, which is blue, the
Yes.
letter J, cleaningfranchise.com, and just look at that, see what all involved. But what's next? I have a Blue Jay cleaning solutions that started in Greensboro, which is a nearby
Mm-hmm.
town here. And it's a mother who has an adult son who is on the spectrum and who
Mm-hmm.
lost his job he had at the hospital. And now he is an
Yeah.
entrepreneur owning a Blue Jay Cleaning Solutions in Greensboro, and she's just starting up. So I want, I would love to think that we could start 3 or 4 Blue Jays, this year before the
Oh,
end of the
that's
year.
cool.
So that would be my hope. That's my
I love
goal that I'm shooting for.
3 to 4. I'm looking to see if there are any questions. So if I look distracted, it's because I'm strolling for questions. I do not want to miss anyone here. Well, that's good. So 3 to 4, business in a box. Well, we pray that it is more than that. We pray. So I will share this. And if you're watching, please, please share this, because not for the sake of Janet and her business, because God has blessed her with the idea. And, whatever God does is well done. But for those people in the community who are overlooked, for those individuals we know are highly intelligent, and she kept saying there's a lot going on up here. They might even be nonverbal. But when it comes to doing what God has called them to do, and they are not mistakes, they are not less than, they're not less intelligent. Like she said, they think differently. We might put them in a box. We might label them, call them whatever, but we know that whatever God makes, it's well done. And He said it's good. So as we enter this new industry, as we learn more, maybe we can come together and help her sell more business in a box, so that more individual on the autistic spectrum could work and have the freedom, right? The financial freedom and that dignity of saying, I have a job, or I have, better yet, I have a business, because I love the idea of entrepreneurship. Thank you so, so much. I didn't see any questions. Do you see any questions in your end, Janet? I would hate to leave if there were questions.
No.
Hold on. I didn't see any questions there. I want to make sure, because it's just, we don't want to not answer the questions. If you have questions and you haven't put it on here, we'll get to them later. And I want to respect everybody's time. I don't see any questions. And we're on 2 different platforms. Okay, great, great, great. Janice, well, thank you. Janet, not Janice. Thank you so much for jumping on this show. And next week, let me see, we'll have next Saturday, I have another guest. Please forgive me, I forgot the name, but join me next Sunday. Not next Saturday, next Sunday, we have a guest again. So every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have a guest. We'll be on live. We'd love for your support. Come and learn as we speak to women who have incredible stories. Women like Janet, who's overcome multiple divorce, who said she had a mental, I don't want to misquote you, mental, what is the phrase?
As a friend said, told me, I lost
Oh,
my mind.
I would not even say that. But it's women like Janet who's lost your mind, but I hopefully your mind came back. You found it. So, but on these,
I did. I
good.
found
So
it.
on the Roll With It show, um, I literally share stories of women who have overcome. Women like Janet, who's lost her mind and have gone through multiple divorce, and more importantly, has started a social entrepreneurship movement to help individuals on the autistic spectrum, those that are overlooked. Personally, myself, you know what I do? I teach women how to become financially free through multiple streams of income on their terms. Don't do it like me, don't do it like Janet, but do it your way. So that's what I do. And I'm excited to share with anyone who's interested in that, to live the financially free life that God has called you to live, away from the stress and the burden of debt. But thank you so much for hopping on. I'll be here again on Sunday, and I'll be here again next Thursday. Janice, thank you, Janet. I keep saying Janice all of a sudden, but I know your name. Janet, thank,
It's okay.
thank
It's
you.
okay.
And I hope that you sell,
Thank you,
I
Paulette.
hope
Thank
that
you so
multiple
much.
people will just connect with you and get business in the box so that we can start hiring more people. Thank you everyone for hopping on. Have a great night. God bless.